after we saw one of these episodes where people talk about how Luna was going to the moon and it was crazy, I asked you about it and said, how does this thing work? How does this UST thing work? How does this whole mechanism work? And you looked at me and you said something pretty close to,
I said there's no way it can work and eventually it's going to blow up. The question is, like, I couldn't really short the thing because with the way that the funding rates were, it's really hard to time. It was interesting. I watched the Bernie Madoff documentary last night, and Dave, knew a lot of them personally. But what was really interesting is that people just didn't question how they could consistently get returns that weren't possible in finance. They just said, oh, well, this is making me money. It's good. And I view a lot of these things as kind of similar in that people just didn't ask questions because they were making so much money that it didn't matter to them. I mean, I saw this thing and I knew it was going to blow up at some point, but I couldn't time it. I didn't know if it was going to go on for 10 years or 10 months or a day. Like there was no way to know. And so when you can't time something, there's no way it's hard to kind of act on that information and to time it correctly.
yeah, timing is important. I mean, I have to laugh. When I was at Citigroup, towards the end, about a year and a half before the Madoff thing finally blew, I was running statistical arbitrage. And the asset management department came to me and said, hey, we have this return series we were just shown. We can make $100 million investment. What do you think? And my answer was, okay, we'll look at it. And so my head quant and I went through every possible scenario. And I ended up telling the asset management people, listen, there's no way that this return series could be genuine. It literally can't. Maybe they gave you bad information. Maybe they left something out. They told me it was Madoff. And I said, well, I don't know Bernie because I didn't, but I was friends, actually good friends with his brother, Peter. And I'm like, I know him to be compliant and generally a reasonable person, but this doesn't make any sense to me. I would steer clear. So in typical Citigroup fashion, what did they do? They cut the size of the investment they were going to make by half. So I saved them $50 million, not the full 100. But it just goes to show that even the biggest firms ignore diligence when they're faced with the ability to make a lot of money. I mean, greed still rules. And in crypto, we've seen it before. We saw it this year in spades. And as much as I hate to say it, we're going to see it again.